Details are emerging about the suspect's past. Investigators say Robert Card served in the Army Reserves and has a history of mental health issues. Craig Patrick is here now with more on Card's background. Craig.
Well, we'll start with the Pentagon. It has records on a reservist who has the same name and birth date as the suspect, and assuming that it's the same Robert Russell Card II, born on April 4th, 1983, making those assumptions, he has extensive weapons training, having served in the Army Reserve for more than 20 years. Now, sources in law enforcement first told the Washington Post that Card alarmed his commanders this summer when he issued threats to his own unit. Sources say that he reported hearing voices inside of his head and that he threatened to shoot up a National Guard base in Maine. His commanders at that point sent him to a hospital where he stayed for 2 weeks for psychiatric treatment. And by the way, unlike Florida, Maine does not have a red flag law, which empowers government to take weapons from those who threaten themselves or others.
What Maine does have, however, is 4 years ago they passed a law to try to prevent mass shootings called the Yellowflaglaws, which does restrict the possession of guns by people suffering with mental challenges who are deemed to be a danger to themselves or others and requires a medical professional's opinion. So let's listen to a question to law enforcement.
Senator Collins said that the yellow flag law should have been enforced in this situation. So as you stand here today, what is your response to that? And also, as you stand here today, was law enforcement notified of the threats that he was making, of his condition? Were they aware of it, and what steps were taken to investigate that?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and Senator Collins is great. We have a great federal delegation that works incredibly hard on behalf of the state of Maine. I don't know exactly what the good senator said. I respect her a great deal, so I won't answer to any comments that she made. If that's her perspective, based on what she knows through the general public or otherwise, then that's fine. She certainly has the right to do that. But based on what I've seen...
Well, he kind of skated over answering that question. So to help us understand the yellow flag laws, I think first it's best to understand the complications of just enforcing them. So let's first listen to a segment of Maine.gov, as this will clarify the gun laws in Maine.
To carry a concealed handgun without a permit. And basically what it says is if you're 21 or older and you're otherwise not prohibited from owning or possessing a firearm, and that's a key part, we'll come back to that later, then you can carry a concealed handgun on or about your person. Also, if you're 18, 19, or 20, and you're currently serving in the armed forces or the National Guard, or you formerly served, as long as you weren't discharged dishonorably, you're also able to carry without a permit. So the reason why a permitting process was left in place for a couple reasons. One of them is out-of-state reciprocity. There are a number of states that recognize Maine's concealed handgun permit. I would advise anyone before you travel to those states, I would check with the individual authority with those states to see if that permit is subject to any restrictions or limitations. I can't speak knowledgeably about other states' laws and regulations. That's incumbent on you to check that out. But the permitting process was left in place for that. Also, there are a number of places in Maine, which I can talk about, where in order to lawfully carry, you still need to possess a valid concealed handgun permit. And I guess thirdly, I think there's a lot of people that subject themselves to the permit process because they feel comfortable going through the process. They feel like it's the right thing to do, and certainly that's their choice. But so I think that's why the permitting process was left in place for those three reasons, even though you essentially can carry concealed without a permit, provided that you meet the age restrictions and that you're not otherwise prohibited from owning or possessing a firearm.
What are some of the places where if you don't have a permit, you can't carry, but with a permit, you can?
So good question. So some of these are kind of niche.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there for a second. They do go on to say when, you can't legally carry. So I would suggest you watch the entire video. However, we did find out that Robert Card served in the Army Reserves. So Is that true? I don't know. And would that cover him to carry without a permit? So that's interesting. Now let's just jump ahead and to find out, how do you find out if you're prohibited to carry?
How do you find out if you are prohibited from carrying a firearm?
So it's really up to the individual. We get this question a lot, and this is probably a good time for me to say there are a number of prohibitions out there at both the state and federal level. Some of them mirror each other, some of them are slightly different. And if an individual thinks they may be prohibited, the best advice I can give them is to do their due diligence, maybe consult the services of qualified private legal counsel to look into a matter if it was maybe a previous conviction that they're concerned about, if they feel like due to a mental health issue, they might have been involuntarily committed to a mental hospital by order of a district court. These are just some of the reasons that you can be prohibited from owning firearms, but it's really up to the individual to take it upon themselves to really kind of delve into it and make that determination. It's really not, and I guess regarding federal law, so I'm not an authority on federal law. I necessarily have to know something about federal law to do my job and to administer my duties. But I would urge anyone, if it's a question as to federal law, I don't enforce federal law. I'm not the final decision maker on federal law. So I would advise anyone, if it's a matter of federal law, and there's a fairly broad category of laws, federal laws that govern firearms, that you would consult a federal law enforcement agency such as the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms regarding the state of federal law.
Okay, so I hope you caught what was just said, that you need to do your own research, and there could be many reasons why you could be prohibited to carry. So I've left a link below to their full video as they go on to answer many, many more questions. And this leads us nicely into yellow flag laws. So from what I can tell, yellow flag laws are when medical professionals are asked to do an assessment for someone who has been arrested by the police. So once the assessment's done, then it is taken to the court, and the court will decide whether or not they are safe to have weapons. I mean, we see here that we're being told that Robert Card had been treated for a mental, health. And according to the American Hospital Association, they have guidance, not legal advice, when it comes to releasing patient information to law enforcement. And this is under the HIPAA 1996 Act. Even if they get a subpoena, they still have to consider a 3-point test. And the long and short of the story, let's look at what's happening here. Robert Card made a statement that he had been hearing voices and wanted to cause harm. So under this guidance, if an individual makes a statement under treatment, then the hospital has no obligation to disclose patient information to avert a serious threat to health or safety. However, there is times when they are required to release information, and that is according to federal, state, and local laws. Is this a loophole?
Katie also spoke to NBC News extensively, and maybe she shared some of this with you as well, Zach, but just Robert Card's past mental health struggles and what he was hearing reportedly from Katie, the voices in his head. So I know that since this incident has happened, they had sent countless messages to Robert asking him to do the right thing and turn himself in. Obviously, those messages were going unanswered, but it's great to hear the perspective of his family and get a little context of Robert Card.
Yeah,
and it opens up more questions.
This, of course,
it opens up more questions as to why was Robert Card in possession of any firearms, period. Knowing full well, you just heard from Katie that he had a long fight with this, hearing voices. These are clear and concise signs that you remove firearms from somebody that has that happening and that going on. Bill, I wanted to get your thoughts, and I asked Dennis this before you came on with us.
Mental health professionals have to work hand in hand with law enforcement. And again, confidentiality and HIPAA laws collide with the law, and has to be changed.
Yeah, and we say this all the time. After all of these shootings happen, there's this repetitive call for change, and nothing happens.
Well said, Diddy Ron. And let's hope this time there is justice for the victims and their families. So please like this video if you like this kind of content. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you want to be notified when I'm going live or upload another video. I'm Karen Cole from Legal Minded Friends. Information is power, meaning if you know something, you can make decisions that are right for you.